We had especially talented women, which did so well in the headquarters, but they were never appointed as ambassadors just because of their gender. And there are records of commissions of appointment which actually state that she could, but she will not become ambassador because she's a woman. There are no women ambassadors. We are the generation which changed the system beyond recognition. And I think there is still a long way to go in any foreign service. Being in India, I see so many bright women in various positions, including very senior positions in Indian foreign service. There is still a lot of things that need to be changed or done to encourage women reclaim the space,
Hello, and welcome to the Anahita Speaker Series presented by Carnegie India, celebrating stirring stories of empowerment, struggle, and success from women professionals in different fields across the globe. Stories we hope are bound to inspire young professionals. I'm Kanika Monga, Senior Coordinator, Partnerships and Strategy at Carnegie India. Today, we are honored to have with us Ambassador Diana Mickevičienė, Ambassador of Lithuania to India. Ambassador, thank you so much for making the time to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
So, Ambassador, I'll start with my first question. You've often described India as your second home, your karma bhumi, having studied here twice before returning as ambassador. Can you take us through the personal journey? What has been your connect with India? What were those early experiences that formed the deep connection?
Well, yes, it's right. I often describe India as my karma bhumi, the land of, karma. Even though I have to say I'm a professional diplomat, I worked in other countries and with many other countries. So India is one of the countries where I am privileged and happy to have been serving. But I will work with any other country my government asks me to. And yet, in that professional journey, India is and has been and probably will always be my special chapter. So I studied in India twice, and I also am in the middle of my second diplomatic posting because I also served as Deputy Chief of Mission here in Delhi more than a decade ago. So yes, it's been a number of longer stays that I enjoyed in Delhi, and I like Delhi. I am very attached to Delhi as such, and certain places of special significance to me. But if you ask me about how it has started, it started really early in my life. I was a little girl. In fact, when I really, something happened to me, something struck me so that I fell in love with India, literally. And I know very well what it was. It was a movie. It was an Indian movie I saw at the age of maybe 11, 12. And it was Umrao Jan. And it's as simple as this. So when I met a couple of years ago, I met Muzaffar Ali, the director of this fantastic movie. I told him right away, sir, you are definitely responsible for me coming here. Because I didn't know much about, Lucknow or that special culture in which the set of that particular movie was based. But it struck me so much that, I remember I came home and I drew Umrao, that beautiful, courtesan. And I'm not an artist. I don't know how to draw or paint. But it's simply, for me as a child, I didn't find any other medium to express my fascination. So it was a very trivial start with movies, and then I watched other movies, and then I read somewhat harsh review of Indian cinema written by one, movie critic in Lithuania, and he said something like, and I was maybe 13 years old at that time, and he said something like, there is hardly any commonality between real India and the movies because it projects an altogether alternative India. So I think that was a decisive moment where I told myself, so what is this real India? And I then started reading everything I could find. And, I was growing up in that, Lithuania still under Soviet rule. So information space was very controlled. Of course, there was no internet. It was not that age. But everything was controlled. Of course, as a friendly country, India was somewhat, mentioned, but still there. I was very ideological and very little, so I read everything I could lay my hands on, that time, and that passion remained with me. So when I joined university and Lithuania became independent, and I was able to access much more information, I just dived into it, and I started studying it seriously. So I studied philosophy. I focused on Indian philosophy. I studied international relations. The topic of my paper was Kashmir. I did MA in cultural studies and social anthropology. So I then took a deep dive into Indian caste system. So whatever I majored in, India would be the focus. So I'm sort of a self-made Indologist, I could say. I studied Hindi, I studied Sanskrit to complement that whole picture. So yes, I'm self-styled Indologist, one could say, by my background. And when I first had the opportunity to come to India, I was a very junior diploma, just 6 months old in the Foreign Service in '94. I got this wonderful chance to come for a 3-month professional course for young diplomats organized by Foreign Service Institute, FSI, in Delhi. And this was my very first encounter with real India, as we speak. And so I spent 3 months. That was my very first and still relatively short stint, 3 months in Delhi, in Chanakya Puri, in that wonderful pink hostel called Vishwa Yuva Kendra, which I pass on duty today almost every day. And I visited it last year to celebrate my 30 years because it was in September '94 that I came for the first time. So I went back to my hostel and they very warmly received me. I went to my room. I had a cup of tea there, and I sang a song which we used to sing as all young diplomats from around the world in that hostel. That was really sweet. And that really reminded me of my very first steps in India.
So you have some really nice memories of that time.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So, Ambassador, if I dig a little deeper, it's amazing your connection with India, how much you researched into it, studied Sanskrit, Hindi. If I could ask you that, how did you get into the world of diplomacy? Was there anything in your childhood that encouraged you to go into that field, or was it your studying?
Well, it was not from childhood, because when I was a child, Lithuania was still occupied. There was no Lithuania. We had no diplomatic service. But somewhere in '92, '93, the Institute of International Relations was set up in Lithuania. So when I joined philosophy at the Vilnius University, this was also the second batch of philosophy, because the faculty was just reinstated last year. As I said, under occupation, we were not allowed to have philosophy of our own, international relations of our own. You had to go to Moscow or St. Petersburg for everything that concerned the wider world. We could not. That was the policy of Soviet Union, to sort of limit those exposures in their provinces, republics. So then the country is back on the map, and we are getting back our philosophy studies, which doesn't build on Marxism. Finally, we are free, and then international relations also come back big way. So I decided to go for MA International Relations after having completed bachelor. in philosophy. And the foreign service was very young. At that time, we didn't have professionals. So everybody who was a graduate, who had a university diploma and knew foreign languages were encouraged to join. And once they joined, they would normally be subjected to some sort of training. But our very first years was a lot of improvisation because we had to literally recreate it from scratch. So I was invited by a friend who was already part of that very young foreign service, barely 3.5 years in existence. I was still just just starting my international studies. And that's what happened. He took my hand and he brought me to the commission, which was at that time, scrutinizing new candidates. And since I knew English, I was about to get my university diploma in a year's time, less than a year's time. I was allowed to join at that time. We had doctors, we had physicists, we had chemists, we had whoever, because there was no graduate. They just did not exist, the graduates in political or international studies at that time. So I was one of the first, and many of my batchmates actually joined at a similar time, much before we actually developed the system of entrance exams, really rigorous, selection process that is there now. So yes, I'm a child of that very experimental diplomacy, if you may call it. We had to, read about protocol in thick, outdated books. We had to improvise a lot of things which is not available because the country was, just creating that system. So then, India was somewhere there, but we didn't have an embassy in India. We didn't have embassies in Asia at all. This was a very nascent stage of our foreign service. So I think this was not so much related to India. It was another passion which I took as my career path.
Thank you for that. That's really interesting. So coming back to India, Lithuania ties and the connection, you promoted and discovered the strong connection between Lithuanian and Sanskrit. Can you explain to us a little bit of what that connection is and your thoughts on it?
Well, I can't claim to have discovered it. It was discovered much before me, but I really took to it as an important subject and one of my priorities as ambassador. But this is a connection that every Lithuanian grows up with. It's a very well-known fact. It's a fact which was discovered by linguists late 19th century, early 20th century in Germany especially, where comparative linguistics was flourishing at that time, and many languages were brought into that sort of a common picture to be put for comparison. Yes, and the fact is that our language is very, very archaic. It's not simplified itself as much as many other modern European languages have. So it is studied at various universities, linguistics departments around the world as one of those paradigmal languages through which you see the history, the evolution of Indo-European languages. So you have ancient Greek language, you have Latin, which is, as you know, is a dead language, right? It's a language of scriptures. And you have Lithuanian and you have Sanskrit, which has very often, it's another maybe language, maybe ancient Iranian or one other language would be added, and you have a paradigmal 5-6 languages in the list. So Lithuanian got into that list because, yes, we have for some reason preserved the very antiquated forms in grammar and also words. While other languages went ahead and modernized and simplified. So it's a very difficult language to learn because you have to really learn by heart a lot, but it's very comparative to Sanskrit. So when I studied Sanskrit, and of course we are, Lithuanians know about this, and we know that there are so many, hundreds of words which are identical between Lithuanian and Sanskrit. But what many even in Lithuania don't know, something which I was able to witness myself, is that grammatical structure is strikingly similar, and to me is actually even more that demonstrated that similarity much more than just words, because words can travel easily. They come, we go to another country through culture, for interactions, but grammatical structure is what indicates it. So I studied many languages, 5, 6 languages in my life, but when it was only when I studied Sanskrit where I could relate specific cases in grammar to my mother tongue, which is Lithuanian. It doesn't happen. We are used to the fact Lithuanians, when they learn foreign language, you know that you cannot rely on your mother tongue because it will be different. But in Sanskrit, the conjugation system and also declension system in grammar are so similar, especially in masculine, gender. We have the same 7 cases, which change the endings in a very similar manner. So when you, try to, like, for example, take a word, God, and in English it will be in the God, with the God, by the God, right? So in Lithuanian, like in Sanskrit, we change the ending. And that is surprisingly very, very similar. So I thought that it's such a nice case of a similarity or commonality we probably would never understand till the end because it comes with history. We may never be able to explain why exactly, but this can be used to reach out to warm people's hearts. So, and even my predecessors actually supported. We've published a dictionary of identical words. It's a small dictionary of 108 identical words between Lithuanian and Sanskrit. And it really worked wonders. It's a best souvenir and the best gift to an Indian friend because everybody's so happy. So now I'm working on a much bigger dictionary. I have put together 2 professors, one Lithuanian, one Indian, to produce a much bigger 1,008 words dictionary. So yes, you may call it soft diplomacy, you may call it cultural diplomacy, but it also, I think it activates academic connections because you have 2 sides working together. You have an institutional arrangement, and then media gets interested, and just common people. I meet so many who have already heard about this, and I think it really works. Imagine we are a very, very small country, so for us to have visibility, you have to find a special feature which really pleases and draws interest here. So the linguistic connection is one such thing.
It's a great connection. And I think this dictionary sounds fabulous. I'm going to try to get my hands on it, and good luck with the larger version. It's such a great collaboration of the scholars from both the countries. So that's exciting. Going into the cultural aspect a little bit more before we go on to other things, you've spoken a lot about Harivansh Rai Bachchan's poetry, Agnipath and Madhushala. And how has this deepened your particular understanding of Indian culture, and has it influenced your diplomacy in any way?
I have to start with saying that I'm not a poetry person generally. I don't read poetry so much. And what happened to me when I came across Harivansh Rai Bachchan's poetry was a miracle. Nothing short of that, because I'm not a person who really looks out for poetry. But I've been learning Hindi, and I've been learning and forgetting because I come and go. So I have learned to some extent, and I left. I didn't come for another many years, time. So I forgot many words and so on. So I often say that I learned 3 times and I forgot 3 times, and today is the 4th time when I'm again learning my Hindi. But when I laid eyes on, initially it was Agnipath. I was struck, and it's a very short poem, but it's an extremely powerful poem. Then Madhushala came, and it's a huge poem. It's definitely, I'm somewhere stuck in the 40th verse probably, and it's like very still far away. The words are quite complicated. They are Sanskritic. They are not the spoken Hindi. Very, very, very elevated level of language. But it sounds to me so nice that even, hearing it without understanding many words, I enjoy it so much. It's like a flow of a river. So Agnipath was very easy because I just picked it up very much. But Madhushala, you have to struggle, and yet it's such a pleasure. So when I have a free minute, I just open the book and I enjoy myself. And this, I've never done it with Lithuanian poetry or any other poetry. We speak Lithuanian, so in Lithuania we would not be reading English poetry so much. It's in our mother tongue that we prefer to. So it's quite unique what happened to me. But I also felt that it's so important. It's so difficult to translate the poetry. So one of my priorities was, in fact, to start a collaboration between poets, translating each other. So we brought together an Indian poet and a Lithuanian poet and made them sit together, spend time together, weeks in fact, so that they could translate each other while using the English medium as a intermediate, but spending time and discussing the nuances and, being able to spend time to hear the sound and to really understand the subtlest nuances. Because reading Madhushala, I realized how important is it to not just read any, middle language translation, but actually to converse. I think poetry is a very powerful medium to have a dialogue between, different cultures.
It's very unique, like you said. It's really a unique thing to have read Indian poetry when you're not into poetry itself. So, Lithuania is known globally for its advances in laser, cybersecurity, digital innovation, and high niche tech sectors. What do you think are the strongest opportunities for India-Lithuania collaboration in science, technology, and innovation over the next few years? And what are your personal goals while you're here with regards to this?
Well, you have actually named them already. You've named lasers. We are a country of lasers since decades now. It's been 40, 50 years of active development of laser technologies in Lithuania, and it's been booming. We get now companies get those, something that is called like Oscars in the world of lasers, global awards. And as you know, lasers are not really meant to be just for lasers. It's something that is very widely implemented somewhere. And I think very important is to remember that India is really going in for smart manufacturing in a big way, where lasers are a must and they are part of smart manufacturing processes. So of course, Lithuanian lasers are there to be part of that success of smart manufacturing in India. So what we have started, and moving to my personal goals, we have really started supporting our laser companies coming and looking for partners here. So far, they have been very successful in partnering with academic institutions. Many of India's prime research institutions are already working with Lithuanian lasers, and in the world of scientific lasers, Lithuania is a country that is well known. But our goal would be also to push them more into industrial application, because that's where India's ambitions and goals are there, very prominent in the government, and private companies are investing in that a lot. So obviously, lasers for application, which are always very high sophisticated lasers. So we are talking about the nano, pico, not even nano, it's femto and pico, which is extremely high intensity lasers, which are in fact the need of the day when in the medical, especially stent, brain and heart application. We have started space laser as industry, as a branch of lasers. So there again, we have had a few successful launches of nano satellites from Indian soil. ISRO has partnered with a company in Lithuania to launch nano satellites. So we might be very small, but we are very well placed in that. A few of those high tech industries, and for a small actor like us, India is very important as a platform to multiply, to scale up everything that works beautifully on small scale. So in all areas, we look at the technology partnership with India. And our relationships are moving more and more into the high-tech collaboration. It started off as a usual trade in commodities and in goods, so it has moved to services also, and it's mostly from the Indian side because India is so good in IT services, but it has also started moving into the tech exchanges, and even in goods and in that category we too have higher value added on both sides, I have to say. So if we'll split the trade, there will be Indian high-tech machinery going to Lithuania, and on the contrary, Lithuanian high-tech smart IoT devices coming to India and actually playing a role already, especially in networks, in routers and trackers. We have really done quite well on the huge Indian market, which is, of course, a very, very big interest for us to develop. Other than that, yes, you mentioned cybersecurity. We are among the top countries, and I think the level of digitalization in India is mind-blowing. So there would never be enough of cybersecurity preparedness because, with so much of digital, you also have to constantly upgrade your cyber preparedness. Other than that, I think biotech is a huge thing. We are a small biotech superpower. India has already become a big biotech superpower. And also, of course, Indian pharma is very well known and very respected. So we have started some exchanges in chemistry and pharma research. My goal would in fact be to continue that so that we pair together our young scientists and researchers into sort of working out common solutions for the world's problems, be it cancer or some other, commonly faced problems. We have excellent research facilities. We have talents, but again, it's a small country. We can definitely incorporate some more talent from India included to work together. And send our scientists here as well.
Well, I'm sure we're going to see some great strides between India and Lithuania. Ambassador, I want to talk a little bit about women in diplomacy. You've lived and worked in different countries, cultures, and diplomatic environments. How does being a woman in diplomacy vary across different regions?
It definitely varies, and I have really seen very different patterns. Myself, I come from a system where, women were not present, and we historically also reflect on our earlier diplomacy. For example, the independent Lithuania, which existed between the two world wars, right? We have our foreign service, in fact, is continuous from that. While I was describing how we recreated it from zero, but in theory, it survived the occupation because some of our diplomats were abroad and were able to carry that. But it was a very male-dominated system. And in between the two world wars, we had these cases. Now we learned it as history of Lithuanian diplomacy when we had especially talented women, which did so well in the headquarters, but they were never appointed as ambassadors just because of their gender. And there are records of commissions of appointment which actually state that she could, but she will not become ambassador because she's a woman. There are no women ambassadors. So it's a very global phenomenon. Women ambassadors and diplomats generally came in very late. So I'm very conscious of the fact that, we are the generation which changed the system beyond recognition. And I think there is still a long way to go in any foreign service. And being in India, I see so many bright women in various positions, including very senior positions in Indian foreign service. We often talk about that. There is still a lot of things that need to be changed or done to encourage women, reclaim the space, and there are also debates about that, feminine foreign policy. So how much the women can bring in the change, So I'm also very conscious of the fact that sometimes out of that willingness to challenge a situation, we also put too many expectations on women, hoping that a woman will come and perform the miracles. We operate in the totality of a system, so we should not put expectations beyond reality on women's shoulders. But I think there is always space to do more, because I don't see that parity completely in place in neither of the countries I have worked for. But I also think that, yes, women bring in the different approach. Women also have other channels to communicate from, outside the established or sort of classical channels. Women can reach out to a certain strata in society easier because they are women, so they will be welcomed with a little more confidence, maybe by rural women, by women in disadvantaged sectors. Even again, not too much overestimate. I meet women in very well-established strata in India, and we also have those very frank conversations, which I think my male colleagues would not be able to get insight into. So I really appreciate. I'm very happy I'm a woman in diplomacy. I think we should use all our existing channels and create new channels for the betterment of our understanding. But on this, I don't think any country has really achieved the maximum, and there is very long way to go.
It's a very interesting perspective, Ambassador, on what women can bring to the table. But yes, I think has been change, and there's still a long way to go globally.
Absolutely.
So, Ambassador, we'll end with the rapid fire round. That so a poem or a book that you go back to when you need a moment of calm.
I don't, as I said, I'm not really a poetry person, so I won't be able to name one poetry. I actually hum a folk song when I need some peace. So something very, not one song, but it's a simple folk melody which calms me down very well.
One Indian food that you've tried once and instantly thought that this reminds me of home.
Actually, very, very interesting. I discovered, we pride ourselves in this cold pink soup, beetroot soup with yogurt, which is considered a national dish in Lithuania. But I tried chukandar karaita, and I instantly related to it because it is home.
A Lithuanian phrase you would teach every Indian.
Well, I thought about this, and I thought that that proverb about God who gave teeth to a human, that means he will also give bread. Because the sentence is very similar in Lithuanian and in Sanskrit, so we keep on using it to demonstrate it. But the Lithuanian phrase sounds like this: Dievas davė dantis, duos ir duonos. So in Sanskrit, it sounds like almost identical. That means that means if you use your teeth, you will get your bread as well.
Language. What's your best favorite Hindi phrase? Something that you like to say in Hindi.
In Hindi, oh, you should have asked me beforehand.
You can say it for us in Hindi. Anything that comes to your mind.
Anything that comes, no, I have to warn my interlocutors that I understand, so that people don't speak behind my back. So I often have to say, मुझे थोड़ी हिंदी आती है, तो मेरे पेट के पीछे कुछ ना कहना मेरे बारे में. Because we might get into a situation where people, not knowing that I understand, would start speaking things about me. So not that it's my favorite, but I think it's a needed needed addition.
Hidden gem in India that inspired you the most?
There were too many to actually sum it to one, but my last of this 3-year period, my last hidden gem was Badami in Karnataka. where I went with a lot of expectations, but it exceeded all the expectations. And in architecture, in nature, in everything, it was beyond this world. So I always tell my people, "Badani jai."
Lovely. So we'll end with that. Ambassador, thank you so much for having this conversation. We really enjoyed having you. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Do visit Carnegie India's YouTube channel to access all the episodes of the Anahita Speaker Series.
Thank you, Kanika, for speaking to me. Thank you, Carnegie India, for having me over.